All right, before we get to the Big Ten West Division, make sure you go to jimfeist.com. Jim has his Fast Facts. It's at the top right-hand corner of the page. You can see it there. It's a drop-down menu. Gives you personal access to Jim's database. He's got free stats on college football, NFL, and during basketball season, college basketball, and the NBA. You get 2 days worth of stats, and it's all free. Make sure you check it out. Plus, if you want to get free plays sent daily to your cell phone, you can just text GAME, G-A-M-E, to 25827. Get those daily, or you can go to jimwins.com. All right, the Big Ten West Division. I'll start off with the Wisconsin Badgers, off another 10-win season, 10-3. They were 6-2 in the conference, 6-7 against the spread. Paul Chryst is in his second year as coach. Got some talent back here. 7 starters back on offense, 7 on defense. It's a team that has been in 3 of the last 5 Big Ten title games, though not last year. And the offense took a bit of a step back, which was a surprise. 27 points per game. They're ranked 83rd in the country. And the running game was only 148. That ranked 97th. So you got a Badger team that went from 4th in the nation in rushing down to 97th last year. What a drop. Passing game was decent, 229.3 points per game. And they have a new quarterback situation. You got Bart Houston. He's a junior. Saw a little time last year with 282 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Plus they have a guy who's going to give him a run here. 6'4" sophomore, Alec Hornibrook. This guy runs a pro-style offense, which Paul Chryst likes. And there are talent in the back. Both guys who were in the backfield are returning in the senior running back Dare Ogunbowale, 819 yards, and sophomore running back Taiwan Deal. But here's the thing, those guys average 4.3 and 4.2 yards per carry. Again, this team was unstoppable on offense 2 years ago, and they really took a step back. And you have to wonder about that great Wisconsin offensive line that we're just used to seeing year after year. They weren't particularly good last year. Now, the offensive line does return some key talent, and the receivers too were all here last year. Robert Wheelwright had 416 yards. Reggie Love is a junior wide receiver, and they have a 6'5" junior tight end in Troy Fumagalli. So there's some experience for them in the passing game. The defense was number 1 in the nation last year, so this offense didn't have to carry low. That was the big reason that they won 10 games. Just sensational. 13.1 points per game with the defense, and the coordinator, Dave Arandi, he left, but they bring in a guy with a very good reputation. That is Justin Wilcox. He comes over as the former USC defensive coordinator. Now they have Chris Orr and TJ Edwards. They have remained the team's top inside linebackers, so they'll be very strong against the run. And remember, junior defensive end TJ Watt, he's here, and yes, he's JJ's brother. So it'll be a very interesting defensive line with all these guys, and they should be exceptionally strong. And then the secondary, very experienced. You do have 2 new starters at safety, but the cornerbacks are solid with senior cornerback Sojourn Shelton and junior cornerback LeBurn Figaro. Figaro has played 24 games. The 2 new seniors, 2 new safeties are going to step in, but they also have a guy to keep an eye on. He's Eric Burrell. He's only a freshman, but he's a 4-star recruit, so you may see him get in there. So there's plenty of options for depth and talent, and this looks like a top 20 defense again. Maybe not number 1, but should be extremely strong. All right, the schedule for the Wisconsin Badgers, very difficult. Hardest in the Big Ten, maybe the most difficult in the nation. They're going to open with LSU. Then they got a 6-game conference stretch beginning in September, late September. That's just brutal. Michigan State, and then at Michigan back-to-back. They're going to play out Iowa. They got a road game at Northwestern. And October 15th, they're going to be hosting Ohio State. So it's a brutal schedule for the Badgers to entail. And if you want to circle revenge games on the calendar, November 15th, Wisconsin is at Northwestern. Call it a double revenge game because Northwestern has upset them each of the last 2 years. 2 years ago, Northwestern was a 8-point favorite, last year, 2 years ago, Northwestern was a favorite and lost 20-14 as an 8-point favorite at Northwestern. And then they had the home field last year as a 12-point favorite, lost the game again, 13-7, so a double revenge spot. And keep in mind, the Badgers at home, great as far as wins and great as far as spread mark too. 75-10 straight up, 46-33 against the spread the last 12 years. So I would expect a dominant defense, maybe a team to look at under the total, as they're on a 7-3 run under the total coming into this year. But boy, there are some questions with the quarterback play, and that schedule is brutal. So I don't know. 10 wins will be. They'll have to earn 10 wins. I'll be a little conservative estimate here and say 9 wins on the season. All right, let's move to the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Mike Riley going to begin the year 2, and he comes off a losing season, Jeff. So they head in the right direction.
Well, 2 things about last year. Number one, they lost a lot of close games. Some of those games that they lost in the last play of the game, and then they ended it with a bowl game win against UCLA. So those 2 things kind of make things look good for this year. They were 6-7 straight up, 7-6 against the spread last year. They have 8 back on offense, 7 on defense. The offense looks great. The defense is very questionable. The offense averaged 32.5 points per game last year. The passing game was 30th in the country, rushing 71st. Senior quarterback Tommy Armstrong threw for 22 TDs, 16 interceptions, more than 3,000 yards, completed just 55.2% of his passes, ran for 400 yards. And also they're set at running back. You have senior running back Taro Newby, plus you also have McKelly Wilbon and Divine Ozebo. They're good there. 2 starters back on the offensive line. And on the wide receiver front, they have Jordan Westerkamp back and Brandon Riley. Now, defense is a different story. The defensive line is really short on experience, and they're one of the best players left the program, Greg McMullen. So that's going to be a big question mark there. The secondary is back, but last year they allowed 33 points to BYU, 55 to Purdue, 28 to Iowa, even 29 to UCLA in the game that they won. So the defense is going to be the big question mark this year. Nebraska is 24-15 straight up, 24-13 against the spread on the road the last few years. They're on a 5-2 run over the total. The schedule is they host Oregon. That's going to be a big game. They'll probably, I doubt it. Well, there might be a small favorite of that game. Then they have road games: Northwestern, Indiana, Wisconsin, Ohio State, and at Iowa. This team should score a lot of points. They'll be fine on offense. I'm just worried about that defense, and they'll probably pull out 7 wins this year because they should have a lot more wins last year if it weren't for all those close losses. But I'll go with this. I'll go with at least 7 wins this year for Nebraska, John.
All right, definitely a bowl game coming up for them. I'll move on to the Iowa Hawkeyes because here's a team that had just had a kind of a season where everything went their way until the last 2 games of the season. They had a tremendous start under Kirk Ferentz, 12-2 straight up, undefeated, 8-0 in the conference until the Big Ten title game, which was just a heartbreaker, leading all the way in a defensive game against Michigan State and then allowing that late drive as the defense looked like they were tired, and give the Spartans credit as they made some big plays down the stretch. And then after that loss, they really had nothing much for the bowl game. But Ferentz runs a great program at Iowa, and he's got a ton of talent coming back, pretty much the same team too. 7 starters back on offense, 8 on defense. They were 8-5-1 against the spread. The offense is balanced and was better than 2 years ago. They averaged 32.1 points per game. They did it with exceptional balance, of just over 192 yards rushing and passing per game. The ground game was 40th in the country. They got 3 offensive linemen back, led by junior guard Sean Welch and tackle Boone Myers. And the quarterback, C.J. Beathard, he is a senior. Now, he doesn't have dazzling numbers with 17 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. They're very good, almost 3,000 yards passing. But he's one of these guys who's better than that. He's mobile, he's smart, he comes from good family stock, he doesn't make bad decisions. And they primarily like to run the ball first, but when they needed him to pass, he was exceptionally good. Completed 61.6% of his passes. And he's pretty mobile, too, with 237 yards rushing. So they really have a good senior quarterback coming back. And they got plenty of talent surrounding him, too. The ground game was very impressive last year. Key guys are back. Senior running back LaShawn Daniels, 646 yards, 4.5 yards per carry. The junior Akram Wadley, 496 yards. And the passing game has a nice, talented target at tight end. And George Kittle, a 6'4" senior, he had 290 yards. And Matt Vandenberg, a senior wide receiver, was very good with 703 yards. And they like Jeremy Smith, who was a sophomore. He's going to see some more deep threats, but really they really have it all on offense. The only thing that they lost as far as scoring points would be their star kicker, Marshall Cohen. He hit a 57-yarder and was very reliable. But the offense isn't going to have to carry the load because this defense for Iowa the last few years has been great. And last year was one of their best, 15th in the nation in points allowed, 18.5 points per game. The last 2 years they've ranked 9th and 15 in points scored, or points allowed. And they've got their key players back. You got Josie Jewell, a linebacker, along with senior cornerback Desmond King, who's a terrific talent. I expect to see him in the NFL draft about a year from now. You got Miles Taylor at safety, and then Drew Ott. This guy was a star player at defensive end. Got injured late in the year, and he's been petitioning the NCAA for a 5th year. And if he can come back, boy, what a talented player this guy is up front. But even without him, this defense is really loaded with depth and talent. And you look at the schedule for Iowa, it's really not that difficult. They have the early game against Iowa State, a rivalry game, and they only have 4 road games. Minnesota, Purdue, Penn State, and Illinois. Not bad at all. They got home games against Michigan, Northwestern, Nebraska, and Wisconsin will be the big ones, but again, those are at home. So yeah, I can see another 10-plus win season. The thing is, as far as totals, the Hawkeyes are on a run of 14-6-2 over the total. I don't see that continuing. This is a great running game, and with a powerhouse defense, I can see this team being a better look at under the total this season. All right, Northwestern Wildcats. Boy, they were a big surprise in the Big Ten last year. So, Jeff, were they one-year wonders?
I don't know. They were 10-3 last year, but it didn't seem like it. It seemed like they didn't have that good of a season. It was kind of strange. They were 6-2 in conference, 8-5 against the spread. But they beat Stanford in that first game, which was a surprise. But they had those losses: 38-0 to Michigan, 40-10 to Iowa. And they didn't show up in the bowl game, 45-6 to Tennessee. So it was kind of a strange season for Northwestern. Yeah. They were last in the Big Ten in scoring, 19.5 points per game, last in yards. So the offense is going to have to improve. There's quarterback Clayton Thorson, 7 TDs, 9 interceptions, 50.8% completion rate, ran for 397 yards. So things are still iffy on the offense for Northwestern, and obviously they have to be more consistent. Running back sophomore Justin Jackson had over 1,100 yards as a freshman, had 1,400 last year. 4 offensive line starters returned. The wide receiving core lost some key players, but senior wide receiver Austin Carr is back, and I'm not Austin Carr. It just reminds me of the Notre Dame basketball player from the 70s. But I don't think it's any relation, though. The defense was 7th in the country last year, 16.4 points per game allowed. The defense is the strength, led by linebacker Anthony Walker and defense tackle Tyler Lancaster. They bring back experience and skill in the secondary. And the schedule was pretty favorable. They open with they have home games against Western Michigan, Illinois State. Then they have Duke, and not, as far as non-conference, and they have Nebraska at home in the Big Ten. And on the road, they have to go to Ohio State and Michigan State. So it's hard to tell. This is a tough team to handicap. They are on a 23-11 run under the total, and that might be. And they're 8-5 under the total last year. That might be a betting angle there, but it's just hard to tell with Northwestern. You never know what they're going to do. There were many years there where they started off great and they folded in the second half of the season. But I'll go with they could put together 8 wins this year, John.
All right, well, Minnesota Gophers, they're another team that's a bit hard to assess because there are some changes, but they're not major. First of all, the Gophers off a 6-7 season, struggle though in conference play, 2-6. They have been covering numbers though, playing hard for Jerry Kill, 16-10 spread run. Kill is not there anymore, so the new coach is Tracy Claeys. However, he's not new to the program. He's been with Jerry Kill for 21 years, and he was the defensive coordinator. He is now the head coach. The offense, the returning starter, 6 on offense, 8 on defense. The offense is going to have a new look, though, because Jay Johnson is the new offensive coordinator. And this guy comes over from Louisiana Lafayette. They ran everything, a spread attack, a pistol attack, all kinds of misdirections. So you're going to see more of a wide open Gopher attack this year. And the new coach wants to be physical on the offensive line. That's been a big part of spring practice, and they brought in a couple of guards, Vincent Calhoun and Garrison Wright from the junior college ranks, who are big physical players. So that's something new that you're going to see for the fall. The offense was not that impressive last year, 24.6 points per game. That was 100 in the country. And then the passing game was 74th, and the ground game 101st. So that's a big reason why he wants to have physicality up front. They couldn't run the football very well. Mitch Leidner is back, the senior quarterback, 6'4". He was marginal, 14 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, but at least they have a starting senior. And he's got some help around him. You got sophomore running back Shannon Brooks, 709 yards, but the guy had 6 yards per carry, despite the fact that the ground game was below average. He was exceptionally good, and he is back. And plus, he's not alone with Rodney Brooks, who chipped in 670 yards rushing. And then wide receiver Drew Wolotarski is back. He's a 6'3" senior, had 524 yards. So there's a lot of experience for the Gophers as they learn this new playbook, which the coach said only about 25% of the old playbook is really going to be changed. So, but still, expect some changes with the spread attack and some misdirection with Minnesota. Now, the defense was not bad last year, 26.1 points per game. They ranked 59th in the country. And they have some talent back. You have defensive tackle Steven Richardson. He started 12 games as a true freshman, and he was actually exceptional as a freshman, and he comes back. You got a former junior college linebacker, Cody Pook. He was very good and is back. And in the secondary, senior cornerback Jaron Miltmerk is back, and he's going to take a bigger role. So some of the key players are back to a defense that was in the middle of the road, maybe a little bit better than average. The schedule for Minnesota, going to open at home against a Pac-12 team, but fortunately it's Oregon State. And then they got at Penn State as their first road game, and that isn't until October 1st. So they have a nice home schedule for September. They're going to be playing at Illinois, at Maryland, a couple of easy road games, and then at Nebraska and at Wisconsin. And at home they get Northwestern and Iowa. So I can see a team that will be shooting for a winning record, maybe 7-6, and maybe 7-5 in that ballpark. They were 7-5 over the total last year, and I can see that happening again with a defense that's good but not great, and some of the new wrinkles that they're putting on offense. 7-5 over may happen again. All right, the Purdue Boilermakers, boy, they're on a Big Ten run here of 2-22. Is there hope in West Lafayette?
I don't see any. You can't say that Purdue has been patient with Darryl Hazel. He just can't seem to get any talent to get to that score. It's really a bad situation. They have 4 back on offense, 7 on defense, but I'm not sure if that means anything. He promoted tight ends coach Terry Malone to run the offense. He used to coach for Lloyd Carr back in Michigan back in about 10 years ago. Ross Ellis is the defensive coordinator. He was coaching high school last year in Nebraska. So the offense was 95th in the country last year, 52nd in passing, 111th in rushing. Sophomore quarterback Dave Blau is back. He threw for 10 TDs, 8 interceptions, and also have Elijah Sindelar, who's a highly touted prospect and the former Mr. Football in Kentucky. In the spring game, Sindelar actually did better. He was 16 of 30 for 248 yards, 2 TDs. Blau was 17 of 28, 226 yards and a TD. So right now it looks like Blau, but it could be Sindelar. It could be a quarterback battle there in Purdue. Offensive line lacked size. They were 13 last year in the Big Ten in rushing. They lost the 2 best blockers. Wide receiver, running back, they have Markel Jones, and the wide receiver D'Angelo Nancy and Dominic Young. They're okay. Their defense, the last year they were 112th in the nation. They allowed 215 yards rushing per game. They still don't have much of a pass rush. The linebackers are the strength of the defense. And the secondary allowed 275 passing yards per game last year. So I just don't see any much improvement here. The only good thing, their schedule is not too bad. The first 3 are at home: Eastern Kentucky, Cincinnati, and Nevada. And most of the tough teams that play are at home. They're at Maryland, at Illinois, Nebraska, Minnesota, Indiana. So with that schedule, they might pull out 4 wins this year. But I just don't see much improvement in this team. They just can't get any talent to go there. They're 1-14 straight up, 9-5-1 against the spread on the road. So usually because of those big point spreads they're getting, and those road games they're giving up an average of 36 points. So it looks like 7 teams in the Big Ten West. They might 6th or 7th this year, John.
Yeah, interesting that they're 9-5-1 against the spread on the road. The odds makers must make the numbers so big that there's actually value, and I don't know if anybody wagers those, but there is some value, or has been. I'll take a look at the last team in the Big Ten. That's rebuilding Illinois, off a season when they went 5-7, but only 2-6 in conference play, and they're 5-7 against the spread. And their run in Big Ten play has been terrible, 6-26. A lot of starters back on offense, 10-7 on defense, but they do have a new coach in Lovie Smith, a former NFL coach, and the offensive coordinator is Ryan Cubitt. This is a team that had some balance on offense last year, or I should say had a good passing game, 243.4 yards per game. They didn't really score a lot of points, 24.7, and the ground game was terrible, 113th in the country. The one bright spot for the new coaching staff is the quarterback, Wes Lunt, 6'5" senior. This seems like this guy's been around forever, the former Oklahoma State quarterback. He's here, and he was very good last year, 14 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. And you've got a sophomore, Chase Crouch, if you want to go rebuilding from scratch with a youngster. And then you got a very young backfield with Keshawn Vaughn. He had 723 yards last year, 4.6 yards per carry. And a 6'3" junior wide receiver in Malik Turner is back, 510 yards. And Desmond Kane is a sophomore wide receiver who saw some time, almost 500 yards receiving. This team, though, couldn't rush the football. League low, 13 rushing touchdowns last year. Look at the offensive line. 3 starters are coming back, including the center, Joe Spencer. But, boy, they've got to get bigger and physical if they want to run the football. Keep an eye out for Gabe Meganson, though. This guy is a 4-star recruit that redshirted last year. Didn't play on this offensive line, but he will be available for the Illini. So they probably will have a better offensive line for the new coaching staff. And the defense actually wasn't bad for the Illini. 23.3 points per game. They're ranked 41st in the country. Linebacker core coming back this season is very thin, and they've lost 6 of their top 7 tacklers. So there's a lot of rebuilding to do for Lovie Smith, who loves to rebuild defenses. That's his specialty. And lots to start too with the secondary, which lost 2 starters. One starter back is at safety, and Taylor Barton. He's very good, and Darius Mosley is back. Now the schedule for the Illini, they're going to open with 3 straight games at home: Murray State, Western Michigan, and North Carolina. So they have a chance to get a couple of early wins for the coaching staff. October 1st, they got to play at Nebraska. Then they got some road games at Rutgers. Okay, what possible win there? But then at Michigan, at Wisconsin, at Northwestern. And the home schedule isn't great. Iowa, Minnesota, Michigan State, and Purdue. So really, the way they're rebuilding, I cannot see Lovie Smith getting a winning season in his first year. So I'm looking at maybe 3-9 for the Illini. All right, that'll do it for the Big Ten version of ProLine. Make sure you check out YouTube and JimFeist.com. We're going to review all of the college football and NFL teams for the upcoming 2016 season. Make sure you go to JimFeist.com for daily plays from the nation's top handicappers, and that includes Jeff Saad, who runs Las Vegas Sports Services. Also, if you want to get free plays sent right to your cell phone every day, you can just text GAME, G-A-M-E, to 25827, or go to jimwins.com. All right, that'll do it from Las Vegas. Good luck with the games, everyone, and we'll see you with other previews right here at JimFeist.com.